Hello? If y'all will go ahead and take your seats, it's 6:30. We're going to get started here pretty quick. And before the program begins, we're going to show you a video that you'll really enjoy. And the lady that's in the room here, Sandy Amrine, made this video and music, and she's very talented. So watch this and see if it doesn't bring a tear to your eye. And then when it's through here in about 3 minutes, we'll get underway. So go ahead and get you some water and something to drink and all that good stuff. And then Jim will kick us off and we'll get started. We really appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
Wake up, America. Shake off the spin. They call it progress while the poison blows in. Paper on a clipboard, truck in the drive. Say they're here to help us, but they're here for our lives. They sneak through the back gate, talking in code. Say they need our acres to light up the globe. If they take mine today, they'll take yours soon. So look in the mirror, ask what you do. Green scam, painted over truth, selling us out like we got no use. You can dress it up pretty, still a lie on the lamb. Lord, save us now from the green scam. I bled in these furrows, same as my dad. Sunburned shoulders, best years I had. Hands in the soil, kids in the yard. You don't sign that away on some business card. Politicians pocket it, turning their heads, counting their favors while we count our debt. I've worked this land faithful my whole life long. I'll fight like hell, 'cause this ground is my song. Green scam, painted over truth, selling us out like we got no use. You can dress it up pretty, still a lie on the lamb. Lord, save us now. They say more power for the screens in your hand, but what's any progress when it costs you your land? I'm drawing this line, boots in the dust. I stand with my people, or I turn into rust. Green scam, painted over truth, selling us out like we got no use. You can dress it up pretty, still a lie on the lamb. Lord, save us now from the green scam.
Is that microphone working okay? All right, very good. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. First, I want to I want us to give a big round of applause to the Iowa Tribe and thank them for allowing us to use their facility. It's awesome. Also, just want to recognize some of the other elected officials in the room. We've got County Commissioner Lee Doolin here in the back, County Commissioner Marlon Miller. Thank you guys for being here. And also, my office mate, Representative Jenkins, in the back. So give all three of them a round of applause. Did I miss anybody else, elected official-wise, that's here? Yes, I'm getting ready to introduce Mr. Lincoln. But also my legislative assistant and Molly's as well, Marlene, is here. So I want to thank her for coming out tonight. And if you guys need anything done at the Capitol through our office, she's the one to get with. So appreciate her very much. So would like to take a moment to turn the microphone over to Abraham Lincoln. He's going to give us a little bit of information and introduction, and then we'll move through the rest of the program. But Abraham, thank you so much, sir.
Good evening all. My name is Abraham Lincoln. I am the council person for the Iowa Tribe. I sit on our executive legislative council for the tribe. We just want to welcome all of you here tonight to listen to Mr. Shaw give a presentation about what we're all fighting for here. No wind turbines. That's a big thing for us here at the Iowa Tribe. We are a progressive tribe. We like moving along and proceeding on in life, and green energy is one of those things that we're kind of on the fence about when it comes to solar power. But wind power, we don't really like as our Eagle Aviary. Solar power here at the tribe, we like that on top of already infrastructure places that already produce heat, whether that's over our buildings up front or buildings up top. When it comes to wind power, we're heavily against those things. One, for our Eagle Aviary, second, for our people and surrounding communities. But our Eagle Aviary is our top priority. So if you guys don't know much about the Iowa Tribe, we own the Gray Snow Eagle House. It is the largest Native American-owned facility in the nation, and also the largest captivity of non-releasable bald and golden eagles in the world. As of today, we have released 55 eagles back into the wild, and unfortunately, I would say about half of those guys have been released on site. I say unfortunately because if this wind farm is to continue to grow and to actually go to the developing construction phase, that's going to take away all of our rehabilitation efforts at that point. We won't be able to release birds here on site. We'd have to go off-site and find different areas, and that's becoming very, very limited throughout the state of Oklahoma due to wind turbines. So our fight is right alongside with you guys. Representative Shaw, again, we're extremely excited for you to be here tonight and see the t-shirts and the signs that are gone up. If you guys have drove around, we have signs of our own that are posted out. I've worked with Mr. Tom Holmes this past week to get some more of y'all's signs out, and we have posted them all along 177. So we're heavily against this. We're right along with you guys. I have some more of my executive council here with me. I believe Ms. Judy Barnes, our treasurer, is in the audience as well. And then our chairman, Jerry Keyes, could not make it this evening. He's in the city at some meetings. But I would like to say also, we met with Attorney General Drummond as of yesterday, and his office is also looking into every portion of this as well. I reached out to his executive staff member, Stephanie Alexander, today, and she's going to come back and get some more information from us. I'm also proud to say we met with Mark Wayne Mullen and his staff last week, Senator Langford, Representative Bice, and Representative Tom Cole, and kind of voice our concerns with all of this that's going on here in Lincoln County. If we can do anything to keep it out, we're going to do all that we can. Whether that's putting up signs, rallying with you guys at the Capitol. We're going to do all that we can. Myself, I've spent most of my livelihood working for our Gray Snow Eagle House. So I started in 2007 when I was 12 years old. I worked through that facility. Our director, Megan Judkins, is also here with me as well. She started in 2006 at the age of 18. So me and her have been around these wind turbine issues a long time, eagle issues as well. It's unfortunate to say we actually have 2 eagles at our facility that both came from Apex Wind Farms, the K County project. Megan has done some research for us, and we're getting that information to the right hands, so hopefully we can start seeing some progress on the legal side of this. I'm also proud to announce that the Iowa Tribe is going to pass an internal resolution. We've briefly talked about it today. We're going to discuss it next week at our ABC meeting, and that resolution is going to call and possess that all tribally owned properties, whether it's a fee or trust status, will be considered potential release sites. For that, that's going to help in any legal litigation battles later on if it comes to that. So that way it shows the Iowa tribe took internal steps to pass that. It doesn't help outside of the tribe's properties, but it does help with tribal properties. We have several properties throughout Lincoln County, Payne County, Oklahoma County, Logan County, all these areas surrounding our communities. And that's going to help us inside again with those legal battles. So we're hoping to get that passed hopefully next week once we get our lawyers on that and get some legal backing for that. But if there's any question or information you guys need from me, I'm here for a little bit. I do have to get back to my family. I was gone all last week and a half. But if I have any questions, feel free to find me after this or during this. I have plenty of business cards. If you guys follow us or find us on our website, my information is all in there, my email as well. I've given a few out as well. Because any information, please let me know. And welcome, and we're happy to host you guys. Thank you.
Abraham, thank you so much, and to the rest of the Iowa tribe as well for your support in all of this. It means a lot. Up next, I know most of you all know Tom Holmes. He helped coordinate a lot of this event, but he's been really, really involved with the effort with all of the wind turbine topic here in Lincoln County. I asked him to come up and give us about a 10 or 15 minute update just on kind of the two major projects that are being proposed throughout Lincoln County. But Tom's a retired engineer and 25 years on his family's Centennial Farm. He's extremely knowledgeable on the specifics and the data surrounding the projects that he's going to be giving us an update on. So he's going to give us an update, and then I'm going to kind of provide a little bit more of an overview, and then we'll go through some Q&A and kind of some interaction. But right now, please welcome Tom Holmes.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks everyone for being here. Hopefully I can make this work. And I got my timer going, so I'm not going to get hauled off to the jail like one of our friends did over in Claremore the other night. At least I hope. So hopefully Jim might put the big hook on me. Who knows, you know? That one right there. Look at those bangs. Oh, that one. The big one. I'm going backwards. Let's go forward. Right here, Matt. Okay. I'm not going to take the microphone. Okay, so this is the northwest part of Lincoln County, and so you see Kearney and Tryon, and what's shown in yellow are the current leases that have been taken by Apex. So you got a big block of over 4,000 acres right up here. We're sitting about right here right now, somewhere right in here is where the Iowa facility is that we're in. So here's Kearney, this is 105. Over here is Agra and Highway 18. So you see over in here, it's very, very scattered. And we like scattered because that means they aren't going to do anything over there because they got to have concentration. But over here, they've got a concentration, and that represents about around 8,000 acres, which they've been at it now for 2 years, and 8,000 acres is only 1/4 of what they wanted to achieve, and they thought they would have that in about 8 months. So our efforts have slowed them down by a year and a half, basically, because we've been communicating as a community, and we've been talking about, do we want this or not, and all that sort of thing. But first, I also want to say that over the last year, most of our friends and neighbors and everyone has kind of gone to sleep on this issue because they thought Trump was going to end it all, but he cannot. He can only control whether the wind turbines or any green energy projects are on federal land or in federal waters, and whether there's federal funding. So he's stopping those, but this is private land, private investment dollars, and that sort of thing. Now, the federal dollars have not totally stopped yet. July 4th is when those will stop. And so, one of the main things I wanted to point out here, we'll advance to the next one, I hope. Here we go. Y'all might have seen on Facebook that Jim gave a summary in December. And I know you can't read all this, but that's his email, or that's his Facebook. And all I did was capture about 6 of the main points, and that's really all I'm going to cover. But if you wanted all these details, and Jim did a great job of summarizing it here, but December 5th, on his Facebook post, he gives this summary. And he shows here, as of first part of December, there were 21 leases, 7,400 acres. There's been a couple of more leases taken since first part of December. And so this is up to about 8,000 acres, which is what I said a while ago. But of those, and I think it was either 2 or 3 more. So there's 23 or 24 leases that have been taken. Of those, and when I say leases, that means people with their properties. All right. So of those 24, you know how many live in this county?
0.
3. All the others live in Oklahoma City or another state or somewhere else, and they don't care what we have to deal with, you know. So our community has decided in 2 years' time, we don't want them, okay? But we got to keep fighting anyway, because the folks that are out twisting arms and trying to sell it, they've got tactics that they know work, and over time, people let their guard down. So I'm getting off topic a little bit. Let's go here. So Apex told Jim in his December meeting that even if they lost the federal subsidies, it would not kill this project, that they had investors, and the project would be economic. So that's why we've got to keep going. So I already said we're more than a year behind schedule, only 25% leased. They're not going to give up. Most of that leased acreage is west of 177 and north of 105, like I showed you on the map. They have applied for their connection to the grid, and they only applied for half of the original capacity that they intended to build. So they're getting an idea that this isn't going to go to the full-size project that they thought. And that's a good thing. And Jim asked them about having a town hall meeting and hearing from the people. They said, no, we're not going to do any in-person town hall meeting. We might do online if we can control the questions and the whole situation. So that's the kind of folks that we're dealing with, of course. And so the action items: continue to inform your neighbors, don't sign a wind lease, and urge elected officials to support regulations of the industry. This industry has almost 0 regulations. The only regulations that are of importance: you can't put the wind turbine within 1.5 miles of a school, hospital, or airport. That's it. Do you know that the guy who cuts your hair has more regulations on him than the wind industry does? Or the lady who fixes your hair or your nail polish? They have more regulations than the wind industry. How does that make sense? Don't get me excited. Okay. I think those were the main things about the project over here. How many people are here that are over to the east and east of 18 in the Anel project? Anybody here? Anybody care about that one? Nobody? Well, then all I'll say about that is they're in trouble. Most likely, they're going to be ready to construct before the July 4th deadline. You can't see it very well, but right here there's a dashed line running right up through here. This is Agra, Stroud's here. This is the county line with Creek County, and this is the county line with Payne County. This is where they're going to tie into the grid. Right here, it's 3 miles west of Stroud. It's a substation there. In January, they received a right-of-way to lay their main line right up through the heart of this, and they already have their agreement to connect. Here's the things to watch for. There's several pieces of state land. They're in orange. You can't see them very well, but they're crosshatched. That piece here. It's about 3,500 acres. I expect them to go to the state and ask for that so that they can kind of fill this in a little more. And they also, with our county commissioners, they need to have a road back up here. Need a road use agreement with the county. So there's a couple pieces that they still need to do, and that's our opportunity to slow them down. But if no one from that part of the county came, it's like, well, they're not fighting too hard. That's the way it seems. So I hate to hear that, but that's where it stands. Okay? Any questions on that? Well, we'll do questions later. All right. Here's something that will help you when you talk with your neighbors and friends. Wait, did I advance too far? Did I skip one? How do I back up? I may have to tell a joke while Heather gets up here. Did I push the right one?
No.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Follow along.
Go back to the light. Here we go. These next two slides are ones that will help you when you're talking with your neighbors. Lightning, these things are lightning rods. And maybe you saw that model back there, or maybe you saw the picture early. The ones they want to put in eastern Oklahoma are twice the size of the midgets that are out west. The ones out west are 400 foot. This is Statue of Liberty, it's 300 feet. They're going to put the ones this size between 700 and 800 feet. And those attract lightning. And there just happened to be a story, came out in January, that Oklahoma is now the state in the U.S. that has more lightning strikes than any other state. And it says that we get 73 lightning strikes per square mile per year. So that means if you live in a square mile, which everybody does, you're getting about 6 a year on average throughout the state. Maybe you didn't know that, but for somebody to tell you, oh, lightning never strikes, the statistics are that. So what's important about that is, I've been looking for a year and a half to get my hands on this document. It's the safety manual of the manufacturer of the wind turbines. And this is page 46 of 82 pages of their safety manual. And their storm comes, it's bad. Get out of there. They say it's life-threatening, it's high risk of being struck, and if you're in the proximity of that thing, you're in danger. Well, how far do you need to be? They say 1 kilometer. They're from Germany. This company's Germany. This company has erected over 10,000 of these throughout the world. They know what they're talking about, and they say you need to be 3,280 feet away from that tower and stay away for an hour after the storm passes. Has anybody ever been to an OU football game or a Little League ball game and they watching the clouds, and when the storm gets within about 5 miles, they shut the game down, don't they? Because of a lightning strike. Okay? Our state representatives have been talking about what should be done. Right now, there are no laws. They can put that wind turbine anywhere they want to. The wind companies can. They're saying it needs to be 1.1 times the height. So if it's 700-foot tall tower, 770 feet from your house is close enough. Well, that's a whole lot less than 3,280. So when a thunderstorm comes, are you going to leave your house and stay gone for an hour? What if it's all night long? What are you going to do? Okay, this is new information that we just got. And you know where we got this? They hide this stuff. The state of Arkansas last year, their legislature, and I'll show you what their law did. They did a Freedom of Information Act and got this from the manufacturers. You can't get it anywhere else. I've been looking for it. We showed this to Apex, and they said, oh, we haven't seen that before. You buy that? So the legislators need to know this, and your neighbors need to know this. And I've got a handout there at the back that has this page that you can take home with you, and also this next slide. But this is important. All right? Let's go to the next one. How am I doing on time? Am I out? You can get the hook out? Oh, I got 2 minutes left. I've got to hurry. Okay. Another thing that they always say is, well, you can't put restrictions on ag land. This is not a city. You can't zone us. We don't want you to zone us because we don't want you to tell us what color to paint our barn or where to park our tractor. Well, we don't want to do any of that stuff. But you know what? The state has already passed laws for agricultural facilities that are industrial. Cattle, sheep, and swine lots, you've got to be a mile setback. And this is an ag. So the wind turbines are an industrial activity. That's not something an individual landowner can do by himself. It takes a big multi-million-dollar corporation to come in and put all that in. That's the definition of industrial activity. So the legislators have been saying, oh, we can't do that. And you hear local people say, well, we can't do that. It's already been done. As a landowner, you cannot start a big cattle feedlot operation because it's against the law in the state of Oklahoma. Well, if that's against the law, and if you put one in, how many of your neighbors are you going to impact? 3, 4? How far is it going to go? Mile, 2? These wind turbines, if you notice on that map that I showed you, it's like 8 miles by 8 miles. You're going to impact hundreds of people. And you're telling me that's not an activity that needs to be regulated and needs to be monitored and controlled? Okay. I think I'm through with that one. Go on. All right, we're going to buzz through these real quick. I just want you to see Over here's Eastern. All these blobs, that's where all the wind turbines are today in Oklahoma. There's 5,600 of them in 85 different projects all over here. We're going to look real close at these two. One by Sealing, Oklahoma, which is just south of Woodward, and one way out here, the furthest one west, Goodwell. Let's go to the next one. This is the one out by Goodwell, Texoma, in the Panhandle. I zoomed in real close on Google Maps. I found there's 8 houses on this 18,000 acres. That's an average of over one house for every 2,000 acres, something like that. And I went ahead and put little indicators right here so you can see exactly where the 8 houses are. And I measured the distances to the closest wind turbine. They average 2,100 feet from a house. And those are the 400-foot tall midget ones. So they're putting them 5 times the height, 5 times the distance away. Well, if they did the 5 times the distance for us, on a 700-foot tower, that'd be 3,500 feet. Hey, guess what? That's close to what the lightning strike guy said. Maybe that's the way it ought to be. But you hear all these people out in western Oklahoma say, oh, we've got them everywhere. They don't cause a problem. Yeah, they're 5 times the distance from your house. No wonder they're not having too much trouble. That's my timer, so I'm about done. Let me, oh, it says repeat. I just got 12 more minutes. I'm good. Okay, yes. All right, this other one, Sealing. I won't go through all that, but 2,000 feet distance and 400-foot midgets. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so here's the summary. There's the 2 ones, the 2 that I showed you, but in eastern Oklahoma, they're looking at 700-800 foot tall. The blades are twice as long. The blades are as long as a football field. On those big tall ones that they want to put out here, 300 foot. That's the length of a football field. Each blade. So the wingspan is 2 foot. 2 football fields wide. All right. So there's a lot of, and so here's the 1.1 number that I talked about. That's what the industry, that's what the wind industry says they want to do. That's what the legislators are saying is fine. 1.1 times the height, 880 feet. Number of acres per home. So in eastern Oklahoma, our turbines are twice as tall, twice the blade speed, twice the blade length, 5 times closer to homes, and 10 times more houses in the area. So is there anything to worry about? Nah. Move on. No problem here. And there are no state regulatory changes? Need them. All right, mention that Arkansas law. They studied it. They did a great job. And they've got a great new law. They came up with 2,500 feet or 3.5 times the blade length. Arkansas is doing way better for their people than Oklahoma. All right, I think that's, got one more, I think. Oh yeah, just back up one. This one. I'll just give you these quotes. This is a part of Missouri, up just north of, up around Joplin. This picture is taken off of a lady's porch. She's looking towards her neighbor's house. And this is 2,100 feet from her house. Now these are only 500 foot tall. But the topography and the type of situation they have here is much different than western Oklahoma. That one there is over a mile. This one's a mile and a half. So just to give you an idea what it looked like in your neighborhood, and here's the quotes from people up that living there. We went from a quiet rural setting to an industrial zone overnight. The noise was nothing I could ever have imagined. Our community, the land here, and the fabric of our relationships with our neighbors will never be repaired. Landowners who signed up these projects and the county leaders who let them do not protect their residents will never fully grasp what they have taken from the families who sacrificed to build Heritage Farm. And the responsibility of elected officials is to ensure health, safety, and welfare of the people they represent, not to ensure that the wind companies can make profits. That's the end. Go ahead. Jim? All yours. Oh, that's my grandkids. That's why I'm up here. Thank you, Jim.
Great job, Tom. Thank you so much. So in all of this mess at the Capitol, had an interim study back in the fall. How many know a little bit about the interim study that we did at the Capitol back in September? Some of you do. So I'm going to go through a little bit of how I kind of kick-started that, which I did. It was combined or joint with the Energy Chair, and a lot of those speakers were pro-wind and solar. It was primarily on wind. A lot of my speakers were obviously on the other side of the fence. So I'm going to go through a little bit of kind of what I leaned into to start that off and kind of lay the groundwork for what are some of the arguments that we continue to hear, right? I mean, there's arguments on both sides of the fence, and we know that, and we've been talking through that for over a year or two or more for some people. And so I want to address some of that. I want to go over, does this industry actually benefit the state of Oklahoma financially, right? So let's look at it from that perspective. And then Tom did a great job of looking at kind of some of those projects in other parts of the state. I'm then going to talk about a few pieces of legislation at the Capitol right now, and then I want to open it up for Q&A and make this more interactive, and we can kind of talk together as a group. So a lot of what I heard at a Senate interim study prior to ours in the House side back in the fall was this whole argument from somebody. He was a professor out of Kansas that was making arguments that, well, the Founding Fathers, James Madison, the Federalist Papers, it all talks about property rights, and you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, with your property. And so what I did was a little bit of research on the Federalist Papers. So let's take a step back just real quick and look at what James Madison, one of our founding fathers, said in the Federalist Papers with respect to this topic. So Federalist Paper number 10 talks about factions and the public good. He emphasizes, being James Madison, emphasized the risk of factions pursuing narrow interests at the expense of the broader community. However, Madison also argued that representative government can refine public views into rules serving the public interest. Setback regulations that protect established investment-backed expectations of residents could be justified as a balance. Now, if we go on to another Federalist Paper, number 51, it talks about checks and balances. Madison stresses the importance of structural protections to prevent overreach. Here, local governments having a voice would serve as a check against state or industry interests pushing for wind energy development without sufficient regard to local conditions. Okay, so this supports giving local communities, which is what we keep talking about, a meaningful voice, as it reflects the principle that power should be divided and counterbalanced to prevent domination. How many people think that our state government dominates power today? Or big corporate interests dominate in the power world today? Last with the Federalist Papers, numbers 45 and 46 talk about local authority and state interests. So in short, these essays really stress that states, and by extension local governments, retain authority over matters closest to the people. Regulation of land use is traditionally a local concern. So the Federalist Papers support the idea that localities are better suited than distant legislatures to judge the rural character of their communities and to protect residents' expectations. Okay, so that's really a summary and kind of a takeaway from James Madison, the Federalist Papers, and really is relevant to what we're dealing with today. At that interim study, I also had former Attorney General John O'Connor come and speak. So from his obvious experience as the lead attorney and legal professional for the entire state of Oklahoma, he put together a whole presentation, but it really boils down to, he provided a ton of citations and precedents in state law, in case law, affirming that county level decisions, county commissioners have the ability to make these decisions, contrary to what a lot of the ADAs and DAs have been saying all around the state, and that along with that, people in the counties have referendum capabilities to be able to initiate citizen petitions. Okay, that is in law, but again, it continues to get roadblock after roadblock when I see other counties with people trying to do a petition and it gets thwarted or what have you. He affirmed it over and over in his presentation that we do have that capability. So that's kind of on the property rights side, the local control piece a little bit. I also hear a lot of a big argument of, well, this is going to help the local schools and it's going to bring in a ton of money and it's this big windfall that everybody's going to benefit from, right? Let's take a look at the actual data on the financial side. So if you look at, over the last 10 years, we have spiked in the amount of of wind turbines, wind projects that have been developed. We've increased our overall wind power by 900% over the last 10 to 15 years. If you look at it even before that spike, okay, there was still a lot of wind that was developed prior to that. But if you look at every single project installed through the year 2016, so 10 years ago, every project that was installed through 2016, the industry will tell you on average these things last about 25 years. That's what they're telling you. It's oftentimes a lot less than that, but let's just give them the benefit of 25 years for the sake of argument. Over the projected lifetime of every single one of those wind projects that was installed through 2016, they would generate, the estimate generation was $1.12 billion in ad valorem in total, okay? Every single one of those installed projects over the entire project life is going to generate less tax than oil and gas does on average in a single year. 25 years worth of tax revenue, they can't even compete in 1 year worth of oil and gas revenue. However, we still today have about 50% natural gas and 41% wind in our electricity generation. It continues to jump up, and it's, in my opinion, negligent from a state perspective to continue to have wind be that high of a percentage in our portfolio from an energy production. At the end of that 25-year life, the Oklahoma Tax Commission will have reimbursed almost 33% of that ad valorem back to the wind companies. They're getting at least 30 to 35% on average of that money back. So when they tell you, we're going to give your town and your city so many millions of dollars, you need to cut that by a third at least, because they're telling you that at full capacity, full production, full lifespan. That's what they're projecting it, and it's not at all the case most times. So wind energy continues to displace natural gas production. Who in here works in the oil field or has worked in the oil field? We still got the same number of rigs running right now? No, we don't. Natural gas in 2023, 10.3% of our total Oklahoma natural gas production was offset and eliminated due to the increased wind energy production. That was almost a $60 million loss in gross production tax revenue to the state of Oklahoma. So the citizenry across the entire state lost $60 million worth of tax revenue from oil and gas because we continue to push this insanity, in my opinion, on wind production. Since we implemented the zero emission tax credit in the state of Oklahoma, we've lost $548 million in gross production tax revenue from oil and gas because they're continuing to go somewhere else and they're drilling somewhere else because we're taxing them to death. By the way, one of the biggest increases in state history, if not the most egregious increase in state history, was in 2018 when our taxes went through the roof. The vast majority of that was on the oil and gas community. The gross production tax took a major hit. What's the analogy? If you want less of something, what do? Tax it more. We're finding that out right now, what's happening with oil and gas. So that loss in GPT, it really confirms that the Southwest Power Pool is the regional grid that our electric grid is on. Okay, so we're one of like 14 states across the country that's on the Southwest Power Pool electric grid. They will openly tell you that they take the cheapest energy all day long, and that's because they want to give the cheapest cost to their ratepayers. That makes sense. But wind energy continues to be the quote-unquote cheapest option because they're completely subsidized from the feds and still getting subsidies at the state level as well. Which again is continuing to shove natural gas out of the equation, which continues to lower the production here in the state and the surrounding states. 2024, a couple of years ago, 62% of every power generation that was seeking a connection to the Southwest Power Pool grid was renewable, 31% was battery storage, and barely 7% was natural gas related. That's not a good trend. So when I was putting all this together for the interim study, I had our research team reach out to all of the, I can't remember how many counties in total. Tom could probably spout off the top of his head. 32 counties that have wind turbines in them. It was kind of a rush request. We only got about 13 or 14 counties that actually responded, so about 40%. But they affirmed the statistic that I told you a minute ago. The exemptions across those 13 counties in ad valorem exemptions for the wind energy industry was about $689 million. over the last 10 years, maybe. Didn't even include all of the zero emission tax credits that they got. So on average, they're pushing back at least 30% of the dollars to those wind companies through the ad valorem exemptions. So couple more things real quick. Oil and gas, comparatively speaking, in 2023, despite the $60 million loss in GPT, they still generated $60 billion in total statewide economic impact. Oil and gas is 23% of the total statewide economic activity, $54 billion in household earnings, 1 out of every $5 in statewide household income, 10% of the state's workforce, and $3.2 billion in total taxes in 2023, despite being shoved out. Imagine what that would look like. Something I want to elaborate on, Tom already talked about some of those projects in Sealing and Goodwill. If you look at Dewey County as a whole, they've got 4 major wind projects out there. And there was data showing, and I got some of this information from somebody else that helped put some of this together. There's data showing that Dewey County's population, so they keep talking about, again, this is going to be really good for the community, really good for the schools. It's going to bolster, everything in your community. Well, in Dewey County, with 4 major wind projects, their population began to decline after 2010, following an increase from 2000 to 2010. So for a 10-year period, their population was steadily increasing. Then in 2012 and 2018, those major wind projects came online, and it followed with a period of accelerated population decline. I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but why do we have 4 major wind projects in the county, and all of a sudden you got people leaving the county? Right, after there was a lot of people that have been moving into the county. It doesn't make sense to me. So, real quick, some of the legislative items at the Capitol, kind of where we're at. So I had a bill that, we worked on a bill last year, and it was hotly contested, and we debated on it forever, and we got to some language on the House side that, in my opinion, and I told them was at the minimum standard that I would support. I told them there's a floor that I'm not going to the basement. There's a floor that I will stay on, but if you guys go any lower, you do not have my support. And to their defense, they stayed at that minimum barrier after we argued on trying to make it a little bit better. We passed that language twice in the House. They killed it the first time, and they sat on it at the end of session. That bill, which is Senate Bill 2, which originated in the Senate, but we stripped the language out and put our language in and sent it back over and said this is actually way better, and this is what they're sitting on, would be 1.5 times the tip height, half a mile from a home. But the key ingredient for me to stay, because I don't believe that's enough, that's not anywhere close to being enough in my opinion. The key ingredient for me was that counties would have the option to adjust those distances, up, down, or even eliminate. Okay, so it's fair across the board. If people don't want it, go for it. You guys vote on it as a county, but it puts the decision closest, again, like we talked about in the beginning, puts the decision closest to where the people are going to be impacted. That bill right now has just been taken over by the head of the Senate Pro Tem, Lonnie Paxton. I am anticipating the Speaker of the House, Kyle Hilbert, will take it over on our side. That bill will probably go to conference committee, which basically means it's going to get watered down further, and then they're going to try to pass it sometime this session. If it gets watered down at all, I'm out. Like it's already too far at the lowest standard, especially if the county option, which was the #1 thing that the Senate argued against. They didn't like the county option. That's the first thing. As soon as we sent it back over, they were like, we don't like the county option. Real. So we're keeping our eyes on that, because the bill that I drafted this year tried to simplify it down to where there weren't so many moving parts like we have in SB2. Senate Bill 2 has a lot of moving parts. It's a pretty complex language. I tried to simplify it down this year to basically say, give counties the option to give a green light or red light on the front end of every project. Every industrial wind, every industrial solar project, up or down, and then let the citizens come back and say, we disagree with that and we want to vote a different way. That's it. That's all I pushed The energy chair on the House side said, I'm not going to hear it, and I'm not hearing any other wind or solar bill because we are looking at Senate Bill 2 as the main vehicle alive at the moment. So everything else was dead on arrival at the beginning of session. There is another bill that somebody brought up to me on the way in today, Senate Bill, what is it, 1514, if somebody wants to, 1514, thank you, by Senator Julie McIntosh. I think some key components to that bill would have some upfront bonding and surety requirements that these companies would be on the hook for decommissioning, because we know that that's a major issue when they come to end of life or they abandon a project, they go out of business, bankruptcy or what have you. They may pay some small surety bond today, but when that entity goes bankrupt, they just wipe their hands and they run off and they don't do anything with it. So this would actually put some more teeth into them having some legitimate decommissioning requirements on the books, which would be great. So that was supposed to be heard in the Senate Energy Committee today. I was just informed that the Senate Energy Committee did not meet. They canceled their meeting today. I think there's only one or two more weeks that they can hear bills on the Senate side. Probably a couple more because we're getting ready to get into oversight committee work on our side. But really, you know, from my opinion, I think most of you that are here tonight really know where I stand on the issue of industrial wind, even solar. But now, and a big topic this week, when I presented a bill earlier this week, was data centers. Data centers are the next thing. Battery storage is the next thing. So if you haven't seen a wind project or a solar project, you're probably going to start seeing data centers being proposed. There was a rumor a couple of days ago that Wellston is a target for a data center. There was also a rumor that was confirmed by somebody in my office yesterday that there is a data center going around south of Stroud or around Stroud, meeting with local officials, fire departments, talking to them. So that's obviously already got some legs on it. I do not want our county to be completely bulldozed over by the industrial machine that is out there and targeting us right now. That's my main issue. And it boils down to, from a rights perspective, these machines impact far beyond the four corners of the property that they're installed on. My right to swing my fist stops where your nose begins, right? I can't just go around swinging and hitting people. That don't work. The same thing on my property. I can't do something that absolutely negatively impacts my neighbor and not be held responsible for it or liable for it. That's what we're talking about. This is not a small ice cream shop on Main Street. It's a massive industrial complex. That's why I'm standing up so hard against this. So I'm going to pause, and I think we've got some microphones that we can run around. But now would love to take any Q&A just on industrial wind in general, the specific projects, what's going on at the Capitol, any kind of legislation or approach, anything like that. Would love to take questions at this point. But thank you guys so much again for coming out tonight. It's really important.
We've got one. I'm a big mouth, so I think they can hear me pretty good. I talk loud. Anyway, okay. You said they've got 1/4 of what they need here in Northeast Lincoln County. Northwest, I'm sorry. If that's the case, where are they? Because there's a lot of that area that is unusable for them. Where are they looking at? Are they looking at north of 105? How far south of 105 are they going? How far east are they looking at going? Okay, that's my first question.
All right. They want, there it was, go back. There it is. See the lines on that map? That's their whole project area. They want it all. They want it everywhere, okay? And we don't know where they're going. Whoever's arm they can twist first or wherever they can persuade is where they're going to go. If it were me, I'd be focused up there by the big block in the corner, and that's probably where they are.
A lot of that came from one individual, too.
Yeah, two brothers is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's right. But still, they want to fill in around there is where they want to be, you know.
And they're the same brothers that swore down that they would not go with this, but money talks.
Right, so when I met with Apex, they originally were planning for this whole boundary and about 100 turbines. Okay, in order for them, they're already filed with the Southwest Power Pool. They're in the queue. That queue takes years for them to move through that whole process. They had to have, I think, at least 20 to 25% of their total project viable for them to get into the queue, which is where they're at. They're at 25%. But they basically said that they would be willing to try to cut that down to half. So they're still half of what they would really like before they start trying to move the process even further. So,
Most of the projects that are in Oklahoma produce on average around 300 megawatts annually, correct?
Correct. They're shooting for 200.
Okay, that's what they're shooting for. What is their break even? What do they have to have? Because here's what I could see happening. Well, if we go in and start small, we can expand later. What's the potential for that?
Oh yeah, it's there. One of the things that they told Jim was, it doesn't matter if it takes us 8 or 10 years, we're just going to keep working it. They've done that before in other places, right, Jim?
they've done, and yeah, they said that they would.
Who's next?
The last project that they just came online with took them about 8 to 10 years to lease up, but I still believe when the federal subsidies start to wind down, I think that attitude changes. I don't see how they continue to stay as persistent on some of these projects for that long.
I have already done tons of research on the amount of earthquakes that we had around Kearney, right where I live, and I have brought up in front of Apex that you are not supposed to build wind turbines in high seismic activity areas. In a 9-year period, Kearney had 203 earthquakes in a 9-year period. I know because I live there and I felt a lot of them. But I asked Apex, are you prepared? Because if you build wind turbines in a seismic area, an active seismic area, you have to have specifically built wind turbines that are made to withstand the seismic activity. I asked Apex if they were prepared to do that. They said, we'll do whatever we need to do. I know that they get out of all kinds of things. What assurance do we have from our county commissioners or whoever is in charge of giving an okay or allowing them? How do we have a guarantee or something in writing that says that specifically?
The current regulatory body that I think would probably regulate that would be the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, but it still boils down to we have no state statutes in place to actually enforce anything like that. We're so far away from that, it's not even funny. Next question.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I kind of wanted to bring up the point that we were told that it was up to us to stop this by going out and talking to our neighbors and convince them that this isn't a good idea. 1,000 acres is going to be in queue for solar, and about 10,000 acres is in queue for solar on state school land. And so did some research, and I guess now the state, the CLO, is opening up renewable energy projects on state school land for 55 years. Do you have any information regarding that information?
I know CLO will offer up to 30 to 55 year leases for industrial tracts. On ag land, if any of you have leased ag land on CLO land, it's only 5 year, right? But no, I know the CLO has toyed with that. I do know that some of those CLO commissioners have voted on, I'm going to say, our side of this topic in a few different items that they voted on at the commission. Most of the time when some people in this room have showed up to put some pressure on them when they vote on something like that. But no, the ability for CLO to go out and do that is a concern of mine, for sure. There was some legislation to try to regulate exactly how they could use some of that land for solar or not, but yeah, we've got a lot more work to do on that. Next one.
You had a couple questions on the county thing you mentioned. the road usage agreements that Thomas mentioned, are those in the works? Do we have those for the county? And also going back to the county option, what does that look like? You mentioned that what SB2 has, how exactly does that work? What's the county option? What exactly is that and how would it work? So I guess like 2 questions there for the county, I guess.
So on the road use, my understanding was you guys had been working, or maybe it was Will up in the UNL side, was working on something, but I don't think there's a road use agreement in place today. Is that right? Okay. So there's no road use agreement in place today. NL is a lot further along than Apex. So the one up near Cushing, I think Commissioner Fine is going to be working on a road use agreement soon, or is actively working on one. The county option language in Senate Bill 2, the way that Senate Bill 2 worked, there was this huge argument between people in the western part, or let me rephrase this, the legislators in the western part of the state saying that we don't mind the wind turbines. We like them. We've had them for 30 years. They're great. But everybody, all of us on the eastern side of the state said we don't want them. Our people don't want them. So how do we figure this out? So Senate Bill 2 really had a filtering mechanism that basically said the setbacks and everything else in the bill, because of the way that we filtered it out, wouldn't impact the western part of the state, west of I-35 at all, right out the gate, but east of I-35 minus, I think, Push or maybe Paw County would be subject to the regulations immediately. So it was, in a way, a sort of compromise. It was okay. But long story short, the county option would have given counties the ability to opt into the setback language if they were not already in the regulatory environment because of where they fell, east or west. But then it would allow the county commissioners, or by a vote of the people, to extend the setback distance, which I think was, again, 1.5 times the tip height or half a mile from a home. Again, that's really short. So you could extend it, you could reduce it at any level. There was no cap, no floor, no ceiling on it. So it really just gave, in my opinion, it gave the state a minimum standard to say this is what we think it should be, or what we're willing to do from a state perspective, but then let the counties play with those distances, for whatever makes sense for you guys by county. So that's what the county language in Senate Bill 2 is designed to do today.
I had someone ask me a couple of questions the other day. I was passing the flyers. They think that the wind turbines have the power of eminent domain over the smaller landowners to get their power to a grid. What do you say about that one?
I have not heard of a wind or solar company try to use eminent domain. I've heard plenty of stories, and for those of you that are in the Perkins area, a lot of folks in that area and even north, further into Payne County, on the high transmission lines, the high voltage transmission lines, those companies have been threatening eminent domain. There has been argument on whether or not they have that capability. Those are private companies, but they are installing infrastructure that's going to be used for public utility consumption, which by state statute would give that entity technically eminent domain potential. But from a wind and solar perspective, no. That is not something that I believe is an option or a tool for them, and I have not heard of any of those companies try to flex that in this area or elsewhere.
I'd like to back up and ask a little question about that data center information. I know personally landowners that have been approached to sell. I know personally some that on that Southwest Route that said they would sell, and some that wouldn't. We were told that they needed to have a whole mile section without anybody living on it. It had to be close to that power grid, and they needed water. My question is, so rumor, verbally been told, they've been approached to sell, and now a representative that said, it does have legs. How does the average citizen follow that before it's a done deal? So how do we know? Who do we inquire on tracking that?
Well, it's maybe not entirely a huge surprise that those companies aren't coming to my office to let me know that they're coming into Lincoln County. They're more than welcome to come and talk to me. My door's always open. But honestly, when we start to hear those things, my biggest encouragement to you would be show up to the next city council meeting, bring it up, ask them about it. because I guarantee you if they're trying to buy land anywhere close to that municipality boundary, they've talked to the city council. Now, what I did hear yesterday, supposedly, is that particular data center company, and I'm still trying to get information on it myself, they said that they were not requiring NDAs, which is abnormal, number one. Number two, they said that they were only going to require like 7,000 gallons of water a week. Any new data center coming into this state that is in current like 2026 era, not trying to build a facility that's back in like 2010, is using hundreds of thousands to millions of gallons of water per day. And they're saying they're only going to require a couple thousand, 5,000 a week. I don't buy it. Especially when this person that shared the information said, yeah, it's going to be a 7-year construction window and it's going to be 2,000 people to put it, to construct it. That's not a small scale facility that's only going to use a couple thousand gallons of water a day. So I'm not necessarily too comfortable with the facts that I've received so far. But in terms of how do you get to the bottom of it, I would start at Stroud City Council at their next meeting.
So even though it's city and it's not the county, because this land is being tried to purchase in the county, not city jurisdiction, and it's technically not Stroud, it's Davenport.
Okay, so that makes more sense because I heard Davenport as well. It depends. It honestly depends on where they're going to get their power and where they're going to get their water. Are they going to contract with the city of Stroud to pull off of their water, wherever their water contracts are at? Even though the land may be outside of the municipality, I still think that there's probably going to be some level of coordination or contractual agreements with the city, I would think. I could be wrong. And so if it is purely on the county, then we've got a couple of guys here, or maybe just one left, bless your heart. But I would go to the next county commission meeting as well. No, there he is. I thought you left.
I wanted to ask, I've listened too much now, my questions are gone. One of the things you said in the beginning of your opening statement was that somebody had reported to you that the county had the ability to enforce regulations and stop things like this, but they didn't cite any kind of a statute or a rule.
They did. There's plenty of. I just didn't include it in my opening because I didn't want to spend the time on it. But I've got the information. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send that to us.
Okay.
And I think the other two commissioners, I'm not positive, but Geronimo, I think, is the name of the AI data center that's being talked about south of Stroud, and they're very open and said they're not going to be here if the public doesn't want them. And they said they've got 9 places that they've looked at and identified as ideal for them, and somebody will want them, and they don't want to be here if they're not welcome. They said they don't want to be a part of any NDAs, and I can get you their information if it's something you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, thank you. And I'll share that information on the statutes from O'Connor. Other questions? You got one in the far back, one here, and then one in the far back.
We had gone to, we're in Logan County, and we went to the Rural Water District meeting and talked to the board about a possible data center going in near Marshall. And we were able to share some information that the board did not would be used too many gallons and blah, blah, blah. So we were able to actually give them some information. And I don't know if you guys are on rural water, but that's another option to go and explain what's going on too, unless they already know. But
well, I think that just underscores this industry is evolving so rapidly, right? I mean, AI in general, but especially these data centers. I mean, the data centers that we've had across Oklahoma for so long are not even close to what we're talking about with these AI data centers or hyperscale data centers. They're massively different facilities. The water is a big issue. And so my biggest concern with these going out here in the middle of rural areas, you think about all the farmers and ranchers, their livelihood depends on access to groundwater, aquifers, local bodies of water, whatever it is. These things, they suck up a ton of water.
I wanted to get a couple of points clarified because the acoustics in this room are not real great and my hearing isn't either. But in the discussion of water, are we talking about these construction sites that the wind turbine companies are supposed to be putting in, should that come to pass? Hopefully not. Are going to be using large amounts of water, or are we talking about water for a different purpose? I heard the term AI.
Yeah, sorry, we had transitioned from the wind turbines for a minute to AI data centers and the amount of water that the AI data centers use, which is millions of gallons of water per day sometimes.
Okay, so I secondhand knowledge, but my son is currently building the mega center in Abilene, and they have a 7-stack gas-powered generator there, turbine generator that's just for the site. Each stack will produce 1.3 megawatts of power. So you do the math, that tells you how much that site's going to need. A lot of that water is for cooling towers, but those cooling tower waters, after they're cycled through a few times, are contaminated and they have to be discharged. And where are they discharged? And how does it affect the groundwater? And how does it affect crops? And how does that affect livestock, etc.?
We already know, as a state, we don't really do a great job of wastewater treatment and how we deal with wastewater, so don't get me started on that. I can't not talk about it, I guess, every time I go and speak somewhere. Who else we got?
All right, there's a young lady here who's lost her voice, and so she typed it out for me. She says, is wind power reliable during cold and heat? You want to answer that, or you want me to tell my story?
You go ahead.
In that big winter storm that we had a couple of weeks ago, you know how you can get on the SPP website and you can see how much power is being generated by all the different facilities in the state and all across the area. During that 4 or 5 days of really cold weather, wind generated 0. When you need it, it ain't there. Sounds like a lot of husbands I've heard about. But also, during the interim study that was done last fall, the Secretary of Energy was there, and he had one of his statisticians, and he talked about the hot summertime of August. And he had a graph that showed it. And when it was over 100 degrees and no wind, you know how much power was being generated by wind? 0. So if it's not reliable, how bad do you need it? And if it's not reliable and you got to rely on solar, maybe solar, but natural gas or hydropower or nuclear, you've got to have the full-blown capacity to deliver when it's important. So as ratepayer, you're paying to have that extra. That's like having a spare car sitting in your driveway because you only need one car, but what if it don't work? So as ratepayers, we are paying extra to have the power there, and the wind's not helping us.
Which then, they'll try to tell you the argument, well, that's why we want to put in the battery energy storage system, so we can bring that energy in and store it and then put it on the grid and dispatch it when we need it. All that is energy arbitrage. They're buying it from wind and solar when it's really cheap, and then they're putting it on the grid at a higher price so they can make a profit, and then who's paying the higher price? We are. Yes, ma'am.
This is 2 parts. When they're bringing those 300-foot wind of the wings and the towers, our county roads, how are they going to turn to get those 300 feet blades alone to the places? And when they dispose of those, there is a disposal place west of Perkins. It's horrible just to see. And I mean, when you have the fibers coming off, or when they're storing them and the rains come and it leaches into the groundwater and off into our water sources, what is our recourse to that? Getting them onto the places and then disposing of them.
Yes, this is where Representative Jenkins probably hates me a little bit, but she helped a little bit too. So when they were disposing of those blades up in Cushing, it was on the south end of Cushing in my district, and we said, hey, you're not doing it right, you don't have the right permits, stop. And so they stopped. Well, then they stopped and relocated further down Highway 33 out into her district. So now it's her problem. In total, yeah, it's your problem. You're welcome. Yeah, so their DEQ and Corporation Commission, I think, have each some different regulatory measures on the sites where they're putting the turbine blades, the graveyards, either from an air pollution standpoint or ground pollution or what have you, as well as transport. As of now, based on whatever regulatory measures are currently in place, they are, I believe, in compliance finally. They struck out like 3 or 4 times and they kept getting mulligans from the agencies, but now they've got their paperwork and I think they're doing it the way that it's supposed to be done. It's still not right, I don't think. In terms of transporting the blades and all that through county roads, I don't see how it's physically possible. I mean, they do promise the county commissioners that they're going to come in and they're going to improve the roads and do all that, but some of these bridges, they can't take that, the corn, all that. I mean, yeah, they find a way, but it's going to bulldoze over somebody's corner or part of their property to get to it, right?
Jim, can I answer some of that?
Yes, sir, please.
So it's my understanding is if they will come off the main highways and they will utilize most of that lease to build new roads and access the rest of that turbine project of 20,000 acres. But they will use main highways to come in to those project sites, and the county roads will be used, and they do have a 60-foot easement, is my understanding, and will clear trees out if they need be. And so any of those leaseholders that has that land, they have the right to go ahead and go and clear all the trees out if they need to. It could be a staging area, it could be used as roads, it could be used for any of that type of stuff. But at the very first of this, I thought they would be using every county road to get to it, but I was told that they use access points from main highways, and they'll go in and build the roads.
Which makes sense and lines up with another speaker that I had at the interim study. She's from the Bull Hall, Orlando area, and there's a big wind complex out there, and she has been very vocal in the community about her regret of signing a wind turbine lease, and she was very vocal in the interim study about the horrific situation that she's been in with that wind company out there and how negligent they've been in pictures of, yeah, they have an easement that they work with and they have the right to, create the path that they want, but they go way beyond that and they start taking out a ton of other trees. And what would be good, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook or not, but we'll repost a link to the interim study from last year on the post that we did to try to promote tonight. So we'll put that out there, and if you have some time, I mean, it is a little lengthy, at least my portion I think was an hour and a half maybe. But if you have time, it's got a lot of good information. So we'll kind of bring that back up, and if you guys will take a look at that, that would be great.
We do have one other question here. It's past the time you wanted to go, so I'll just say this ought to be the last one. We want to talk about the rally too, as soon as this is over.
Yes, we'll talk about that too.
Slide out.
Okay, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is the state turnpike authority or the county building a new county road to access the railroad yard in Wellston that will come out on 66 at the bridge? There's a new road.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Who's in bed? Is that the wind turbine? Because they brought the poles out, the new high line out the old county road. Now it's a straight shot out down in the big turns that go east or west on 166.
Yeah.
Whose road is that? Is that county road or is that the turnpike authority road?
So my understanding, I mean, a lot of that work that's been done out that way with the bridge, reconstruction and all that, because it touched the turnpike, but it would also touch 66, was some joint effort between ODOT and OTA. That particular road that's being done, kind of at one of those the old off ramp there, was, I don't think, it's not you, I don't know if it'll end up becoming y'all's road or not, but I think ODOT, Lee?
Yeah, so that road that's built outside the railroad yard was built primarily by OTA, for OTA's use. I use that railroad yard, I haul in a lot of rock that way. It's gonna be really good to have that there, but that's what that road was built, was for OTA, so they can haul on all their new bridge projects that they're doing in the county.
Okay. Was there one more question? Was somebody had Honora? Okay, we'll do two more, Honora and you, sir, and then we'll close out.
This is more information for people who maybe haven't been involved since the beginning, and correct me if anything has changed since then, but one of the things that we had a state representative from the school board come in at one of the earlier meetings in Chandler, and one of the things that they kind of push is, well, school revenue, school revenue, school revenue. But one of the school members that came in to speak at one of the meetings we had at the Interpretive Center made us aware that even if the school gets revenue from these wind turbines or solar projects, that is earmarked for specific use, and that also takes state money then comes away from there. So the school is not actually getting any more money if there's wind turbines put in. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that. If they hear that, well, it's going to be good for our schools. It makes zero difference. In fact, it actually, because that money is earmarked for special things, it can actually take away from the school in certain aspects.
I think you're exactly right, and it's really kind of typical state government and funding and how we deal with our budget. We'll promise this stuff to go over here, but then we'll take it back off the bottom somewhere else, right? So the net is really zero, but they still delivered on the promise of the extra money's going in. And to your point, the earmark, I do believe it doesn't go to the classroom. It doesn't go to teachers. It goes to facilities or athletics or what have you, right? So I think that's what you're talking about in terms of how it's earmarked. So it is intentional in where it goes. Yes, sir. Last question.
How many of our politicians has been greased a little bit to get some of this stuff through?
I am so glad we're going to end on that question. That is perfect. Let me put it this way. So there's some people in here that, and I mean, quite a few people in here probably that can tell you and show you how to do the research. There's followthemoney.org. There's different websites where you can see. But I would almost bet the farm that if you looked at the top 10 most powerful people in the House and the Senate, each, top 10 to 20, okay, that are in leadership, that pretty much run the place, in the top 3 to 5 of their highest donors since they've been in office, at least one of them is going to be a green energy company. Okay, so the wind lobby in the state of Oklahoma specifically has been super active. Last year, when we started moving the conversation a whole lot further down the field than they thought that we would on House Bill 2751, which became Senate Bill 2, with the setbacks and the county option and all that, it scared them to death. And I had some other guys tell me we are seeing exponentially more wind lobby guys in the Capitol on a day-to-day basis because this conversation is going far. So I mean, for what it's worth, I guess we're making them work for it a little bit harder the last couple of years, which is a good thing. But no, that wind lobby has been massive in our state for a long time.
Were lobbies supposed to be done away with by all these promises and stuff?
So, I mean, we can get into some other pieces of legislation. I had a bill that would ban taxpayer-funded lobbying, didn't get heard. They didn't like that. But no, I will tell you this. I would say 95, 99% of lobbyists are probably there for not good reasons, not reasons that you and I would believe in. It's not 100%, I'll tell you that. There's a few that I personally talk to, and they're on the right side of certain things. Maybe not everything, but certain things. But the vast majority of them, I mean, I only see one or two occasionally. The rest of them steer clear of our hallway, especially with Representative Jenkins. All right, so closing out, we've got a rally coming to the Capitol on Saturday, March 7th from 1 to 3 o'clock. Okay, so this is intentionally on a Saturday because Who in here can show up Monday through Friday at like 10 a.m.? Not very many, right? And so the decision was made to try to have a rally on a Saturday, on a weekend where more people can come. So last year, on the very first day of session, on organizational day, we had a rally at the Capitol. There was maybe 250, 300 people there, which inside the Capitol in the rotunda, was pretty packed. That was great, and it really set a tone and sent a message to the legislature that it was going to be a big priority for a lot of people. We're having this on March 7th, which is a week, I think, leading into the final week before we have to have bills out of one chamber and then send them over to the other. So this is kind of our last moment to really put the pressure on and tell that building we're still serious about the issue, right? We're still serious about it's primarily being broadcast as wind, but in my opinion, it's green energy in general, right? From my perspective. So please put it on your calendar, 1 to 3 o'clock, March 7th on Saturday. We've had a national organization that fights wind projects all across the country. They reached out to us and they wanted to help. This is part of how they're helping us. They're helping organize it and put it together. There's some marketing stuff that's going to be coming out over the next week or two, and they're doing it all. They're not asking us to pitch in or anything like that, which is great. And so far, they've been really good to work with. So please try to come out. And we're all going to pray for good weather. It's March, so you never know around here. But yes, ma'am. Good question. It is going to be outdoors, so we are going to be asking for, or we're going to be praying for good weather. So we're trying to get a ton of people there, and I'm going to start pushing it more too. I had to get through the last couple of weeks with bills and deadlines and stuff like that, but we're going to start broadcasting it as heavily as we can. So please, if you can, make it up there. There's going to be a pretty good roster of speakers. Representative Jenkins is going to be a speaker. We've got maybe 10 or 15 total people. Tom has it up. Thank you.
13 speakers.
Yeah.
26 sponsoring organizations. This is the one that the Republican Party chairwoman has. You got Movement 32 here. You've got So Far, which is Sandra Trawick, y'all know, here at the Iowa Tribe. 26 organizations are sponsoring this. Republican Women of Oklahoma City, Republican Women of Tulsa, OK Grassroots, a whole bunch of folk. We need over 500 people there. And this is going to be different than any other rally that we've ever had or that you've ever been involved with. They're going to be videoing this. This national organization is going to take videos of this. They're going to make a good promotional type piece and story. They're going to get it on Fox News and all that sort of thing. So we need a good showing. And these speeches are going to be very brief, 3 or 4 minutes, or we'll lock you up. So I'm not speaking, as y'all could guess. I volunteered not to go to jail that day. So anyway, we really need y'all to come. We need to bring your neighbors, your friends. This is statewide. The speakers, we got one here from Stillwater area, one from down around Ada, one from Mounds, one from the southeast part of the state. Mike Macy is the governor candidate from, I think, Broken Arrow. Matt Code with the Oil and Gas Workers Association, and then John Spence from up in Craig County. So this is lots of county folks from eastern Oklahoma. They're participating. Some of them are talking about bringing buses. We need over 500 people there, and it's going to be rowdy, loud, quick. We want a lot of cheering. We want a lot of, what's the word for it? The sound bites. That's the kind of speeches we're going to have. Did y'all see that one yesterday? The president had in his office, the lady, the grandma that was on there, and boy, she was about 30 seconds, and she had a good speech. I'd like to have her come speak for us. But anyway, so that's what we need. We need everybody to be there, please.
So there's parking on the south side of the Capitol. There's visitor parking on that side, and it'll be probably on that side of the building that will have the rally set up and all that. So look for more of that to be coming out online. If you need a way to get a hold of me, please let me know. I can give you my card or follow me on social media. I'm going to be pushing a ton of this stuff on social media. And then tomorrow morning, if you are free and want breakfast, come out to Stroud. We've got a legislative breakfast at 8 o'clock down at the high school. So thank you guys so much for coming. God bless you. Really, really appreciate you coming out tonight.
One more thing. I want to personally thank Tom.
Yes.
He's been dedicated to this. He's been so fact-based, civil, polite, and I just want to thank you for setting the bar.
Thank y'all. Be sure to take some of these. I got all these handouts. Those 2 slides that I had up there about the lightning and about the cattle feedlots. I have those on a handout that you can take home, and you use those.